Hello and welcome to Jaw Law. I'm your host, Joe McGregor from Dallas, Texas, and today we're going to be talking about professional referrals.
Any material communicated on this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended to be legal advice. Nothing herein should be considered to create an attorney-client relationship. Please consult an attorney for legal advice on your matter.
Today's episode is a repeat of a former episode, and our ideas haven't changed. So, if you listened to the previous episode and you remember everything, you don't have to listen to this one. However, our ideas are maybe a little bit more detailed and thorough now from the last episode. When we're talking about referrals, we're talking about professional referrals. You're going to go do a startup and maybe your broker gives you a referral to a banker. Maybe your banker gives you a referral for a lawyer. Maybe your friend gives you a referral to an accountant. How do we process all these? And the regenesis, the rebirth of this episode is really a conversation, an extensive conversation that I had with a client this last week about referrals. I just want to touch on some of these points because I feel as dentists and dental professionals, you do have somewhat of some context for how referrals work because you give and receive referrals in your profession. Now, the first place I want to start off is where this client conversation started off, and that is, should you trust a referral if it is given from the other side? So in this case, somebody who is trying to buy a practice and the broker who represents the seller gave her our name, and immediately she's suspicious, but there's not a lot of dental attorneys, so she gives us a call, and she's nervous that the reason the broker gave her our number is because we're too nice, right? Are we really going to go fight for her interests if there's this interest in protecting our relationship with that broker? So let's tackle that one head on. First of all, yes, that's a concern. You need to be aware that two things really, but most importantly, the broker's probably not going to give a referral for someone that they know is going to be a troublemaker. Now, the reason this gets complicated is because some people are troublemakers and they're not helpful to their clients, while other people are not troublemakers, but extremely helpful to their clients. And so I think that's something you have to be aware of. It is the case that if they habitually lose to a particular attorney, they're not going to want to give you a referral to that attorney. At the same time, especially if it's maybe a practice broker who's been doing this a while, and they can see this time after time that attorney's charging a lot of money but not actually getting deals done or not making meaningful changes, they might just actually be doing you a favor. They're like, hey, I don't want to deal with that guy because he's a jerk. Also, doesn't help his clients. So why don't I refer to this other guy who does a good job or is a better deal or whatever? I guess my point is you should be suspicious, but it doesn't automatically mean that referral is like a tainted referral. The other aspect is, yeah, you do need to fear that the referral, and this isn't just an attorney, but anyone, that they're going to protect the relationship because after you have come and gone, they are still going to be professionals, colleagues in the industry. They're going to still be doing their thing. And so you have to ask yourself, is this person going to set aside any kind of differences with that person? And again, we're talking about a referral from across the aisle. Are they going to be able to set that aside temporarily in my interest? And that's a tough one because you don't know. There's not a great way to know other than the general reputation of that professional. Now, let me throw a little wrench, and this is kind of where I differ from the last time when I say I have a little bit more detailed conversations. I do think there is a valid question It's easy to draw questions when you get a referral. Like, why is this guy giving this guy or these two attorneys or these two CPAs or whatever? Why is the other side giving me names for these two? Why aren't they giving me names for for this other one? I think you do have to ask yourself a question about people who are not on a referral list, why they're not there, right? Like if there's somebody who is experienced, so probably number one is that they're just unknown to that broker. And then you have to ask yourself, are they just too new, or how is it that they're unknown? Secondly, though, we'd rather go find someone on our own who wasn't referred, and we're not as critical on that person. We're not asking ourselves, why were they left off the list? Are they just not as experienced? Is everybody else able to see that they're not terribly competent and helpful? Am I not seeing that this person is extremely difficult to deal with, so much so that I might even lose my deal? That's kind of the quick summary of people giving us referrals across the table. Somebody on the other side giving us a referral. Let me add a personal note, actually. Let me addend that. I would say that when someone from the other side gives us a referral, and maybe I don't want those people to hear this, but we kind of forget. I was talking to somebody yesterday who said, we're trying to work out a deal with the broker, and the broker made the comment, I gave your name to this person. Now, I don't know that that's how this person actually came to us. I think it came from a different referral, but nonetheless, that broker had suggested our name at one point. I think after this client had already hired us. But the point is that broker said, hey, I gave them your name. It was relevant to the conversation. And honestly, forgotten. Like it just didn't register. Like once we take a client, that stuff doesn't, like, it's so much more important for us to do a good job and to preserve our reputation. We don't rely on referrals from a single source. So if somebody out there, like a broker or a banker or somebody, if they got mad at the way we were doing stuff, or we didn't show them enough love or loyalty, and they decided to stop referring to us, it's not going to change our fortunes. We get so many referrals from so many different places. And importantly, a lot of our referrals, probably the majority of our referrals, are actually from other clients. Somebody says, I want to buy a practice. Who should I use? And they'll say, hey, use Joe McGregor or one of the other attorneys here. And that's where we get most of our referrals. At no point do we feel beholden. We still feel appreciative that our colleagues in the industry respect us enough to hand out our names. At the same time, it's not worth it to us to jeopardize our reputation or our clients' matter on like being friendly to someone else, like a broker or anything like that. And sometimes it might even cause some awkwardness. But the good news is that most brokers don't expect anything. Most bankers, CPAs, they're doing it because they also have reputations to protect as well. And they have deals to get done. So they're not asking us to cut corners or anything like that. That doesn't mean that that has not happened. But honestly, anytime that happens, that's probably the last time we're going to work with that particular person. Now let's talk about referrals on the same side of the table. What if someone on your team gives a referral to another professional? This one gets tricky. Believe it or not, this is the one that I actually find more problematic because there are certain elements on this side, and you'll see this in dentistry from time to time, but this whole concept of networking and stuff like that, it is the case. Let me put it this way. It is so much easier to have a relationship with, let's say, a banker, and that banker is feeding me referral after referral after referral. It's easier to get referrals, just receive that steady stream of referrals, than to go diversify my referral bank, right? It's common sense. Furthermore, because I'm reliant on that banker to give me referrals, I'm incentivized to make sure that that banker is helped out. So, for instance, banker is giving me 2 referrals a month that are converting into clients. And one of my clients says, you know what? I know that banker referred you to me, but I think I might go with this other banker. Well, now I have an incentive to say, you know what? That other bank kind of sucks. Their online interface is horrible. Customer service sucks. And you should stay with the guy who referred you to me. At least by observation, that's what happens more often than somebody across the table giving a pansy referral, right? It's the people who are tied in with each other because it's just natural. And furthermore, it doesn't necessarily impute anything nefarious to the parties, right? That banker who's giving out that referral, he may be referring to this attorney just because he genuinely thinks that attorney is doing a good job. So why wouldn't he refer and refer often? It's just incumbent upon that attorney who receives the referral to be straight, right? It's tough. And those are the types of things I see a little bit more. Like certain things get said, certain things happen, and I'm always like, I don't know. Sometimes a client will ask, somebody will, maybe a CPA will tell them something, and a client will ask us about it. And in the back of my head, I'm like, man, is the reason they're saying that just to preserve that referral? Yeah, maybe. Okay, so there's that. And then to compound it, there is, in some aspects of the industry, for us, there is not. We do not take any kind of referral fee. And we do that basically to keep our hands clean so that we can look someone in the eye and say, I'm giving you this referral because it's the right person for you or the right people for you. Maybe there are these 2 referrals or 3 referrals. Never because I'm going to get a $6,000 check for referring you. And that is kind of the real problem in the industry. And that happens. And I'm not prepared to say that it's wrong. I do wish that everyone disclosed that. So if we were to take a referral, and this again, this is going to be a little state specific, but for us, we would have to disclose that to a client. Say, hey, if you use Bank A, we will get a $6,000 check. And if you use Bank B, we're going to get a $4,000 check. Either way, we're going to get a check. Or, as is more common, if you use Bank A, we're going to get a $6,000 check. And if you use Bank B, we're not going to get a penny. Wink, wink. We really like Bank A. A lot of this happens without clients knowing it. Now, again, I'm not saying that these people are bad or that that's necessarily wrong. I just wish that it was more out in the open, because then you're able to say, all right, I do like Bank A, but I know that my CPA is recommending Bank A because he's going to get a $6,000 check. And I know that nothing's going to come to him if I choose Bank B. So let me remember that as advice is being given. Now let's move on to something else that I think is interesting and maybe cuts against my own interest. But like I said earlier, our primary source of referrals are former clients. Somebody will be buying a practice and will ask their colleagues or go on the internet and ask a Facebook group, say, hey, I'm buying this practice and I'm looking for a good attorney. Who should I use? We get, virtually every day, there's somebody new who calls and asks about our services because they found out about us from a colleague. We very, very much appreciate that. But it's kind of like when someone goes on the internet and says, hey, I'm new into town and I'm looking for a new dentist. Who should I use? Unless that person has gone to like all the dentists in the area, their answers are going to be kind of limited in terms of their experience, right? They don't have a lot of data points on how to compare attorneys, or in that case, how to compare dentists. So it is interesting that that's what happens. A potential client goes to the internet and asks for referrals, gets several referrals, and each of those persons have probably only used one dental lawyer, sometimes 2, sometimes like a dental lawyer and not a dental lawyer, and they've compared them. But a lot of times, we're the only person that they've used, and we appreciate the vote of confidence, and we see, like we're part of these groups a lot of times. They'll say it the right way, right? They'll say, we used Joe McGregor back in 2011 and had a good experience, right? So they're not saying that, oh, he's better than this guy and that guy. They're just saying, I had a good experience. And I guess my point in referrals is that that's how you need to hear these referrals from your colleagues. Maybe they had a bad experience. Maybe you need to hear what that was. If somebody had a good experience, maybe you can ask a follow-up question. What did you like about working with them? I only fear that when we hear referrals from our colleagues, that we stop too early. I'm looking to build out an office. Who should I use as a construction company? And 2 people respond. It happens to be the same construction company. That's good. That's positive. That's actually a very positive sign. 2 people use that company and apparently liked them enough to suggest them. But it's only 2 data points, 2 people who only used one company each, right? They happen to use the same company, and that is a strong indicator, but it's not the only company out there. So it would be useful for you to maybe ask around. I think in a perfect world, you'd go to a forum, ask your colleagues, then you would go talk to the trusted professionals on your team. And in this case, you'd come to us, ask your lawyer, hey, I'm going to build out an office. What have you heard about these people and who are their best competitors? Now you're starting to work with more data points, and it is going to be a little bit harder for you to get, I hate to say hoodwinked or bamboozled. Those are fun technical words. But what happens is a lot of times people will use someone and one person will tell them, yes, this person is who helped me. And then we just move forward. And sometimes what happens is, and we see this because of the position we're in, over the course of years, we look, hey, in the last 6 years, everybody who has used this person has had a bad experience. It's because they're not asking enough people. They're not asking enough references and referrals and things like that. So they're not maybe collecting as many data points. And I'm not saying you need to talk to 15 people in order to use them. But if you ask online and there are 30 respondents and 24 of them are saying, use this company, that's probably good. I'm talking about situations where somebody says, it's not even online. Someone calls up their friend, hey, I know you did an office. Who did you use as a consultant? Oh, I used this person, and you go use them. And then a year later, that person has a really bad experience with that consultant. And now subsequently, this other person has a bad experience with the consultant. If you never asked other people about that consultant, it's hard to collect additional data. And so that's my encouragement to you, is to take one extra step in these referrals, especially peer referrals. Take one extra step to try to see if you can get an additional data point or 2 on that provider, that person, that company, that bank, whatever you're looking for. Just one extra step, perhaps 2 or 3, to feel even better about that referral. And I will tell you this, it's easy with the banks because some of these banks have been doing dental loans since like the 80s. And I will tell you that the longer someone's been around, you're going to find somebody who didn't have a great experience. You need to ask a question, hey, what was it that you didn't like? And then ask someone else, have you used this bank before? Yeah, I used that bank. How did it go? Worked out well. Can you tell me what went well? Yeah, this went well. Can you tell me what was your experience in this area where this other person didn't have a great experience? Oh, that wasn't my experience at all. Now you've added some data points, and it helps you make a more informed decision, because some of these decisions are going to have very long-lasting effects. If you already own your practice and you've owned it for 15 years, you don't need these, right? It's right at the beginning, right when you're at your most vulnerable, your most ignorant, and I mean that in like you just don't have as much information and experience. You need to rely on people who do have that information and experience. And the way you get them is by making sure they're vetted, right? That you can hear from multiple people that these are useful referrals, that you're not being given this referral because it's somebody's relative or somebody's cashing in on that referral, things like that. Or if they are, you're okay with it, but you know about it. It's something that's out in the open. Anyway, just wanted to share that. I probably talked about it a little longer than expected. I just wanted this to be a 2-minute little update, and here we are. But this is very important, and this is how we interface with our clients, because this is the area at which we're entering their lives. So it comes up a lot. It's very important. And those of you who have found value in this show, please rate and review. This helps us a ton. And we shall see you next time.